moves by the APCB to clinch the governorship seat from the grip of the ruling People's Democratic Party. But we have a guest with us in the studio. He wears many hats. He's a medical doctor, a lawyer, and a pan-Nigerian patriot. He's, Leroy Chuma Edozien. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on the show.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Would I be correct if I said you are a new face, a fresh face in the political landscape?
New face, fresh face, new breeze, new ideas, new creativity, new everything.
Really?
That's what Delta State wants. That's what Nigeria wants.
Okay, now let's begin this way. Delta State is very much in the hands of, well, now opposition PDP. It used to be the ruling party. You belong to the APC. What gives you the confidence, really, that you can take, I don't want to use the word that we're used to, you can, well, wrestle power out of the hands of the PDP to take over come 2019?
Firstly, we have our own strengths, one of which you have mentioned, that we are new to the scene, new ideas, new breeze, new approach to politics. The other angle is that for all its 19 years in power in Delta State, the PDP hasn't got a record to be proud of in terms of infrastructure, in terms of all the things that the citizens of Delta State would want to see and would want to enjoy. So there is a new narrative, but there's also the fact that people want real change this time. They want a transformation of the state. And so it's all in our hands now, the APC.
So there is a sense in which you are saying that governance to you in Delta hasn't been what it should be. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. We have a state that is rich in resources, and you look at the discrepancy, the divergence between what we have on the ground and what we should have given the extent of our physical and other resources. So I think that the people of Delta State so far have been shortchanged, and the APC is in the right position now to take that state forward in a positive way.
Well, like you said, one of the governorship aspirants under your party too, well, we don't know if that is true, Patu Tommy, actually, let me just quote him here. He said that Delta State has no business being poor because it has all that's needed to galvanize its resources to turn it to a full employment economy. One could even say the same about Nigeria. Across the country, there's no part of Nigeria that does not have one thing or the other as comparative advantage. But unfortunately, we still are where we are. So now, what do you really bring to the table? I mean, you're a medical doctor, and you have won all kinds of awards, you know, to show your outstanding performance in the medical field. And you're also a lawyer. How are you going to bring that to bear? Not just if you do get, you know, to become governor in 2019.
When I do get
when?
to become.
Okay, when, right? But the process so far, what exactly are you doing? What are you putting in place to ensure that that becomes reality?
That reality will happen if we have dedicated and effective leadership. That is what is missing. The resources are there. All the ingredients you need for cooking the soup are there. What you need is that dedicated and effective leadership. And good leadership cuts across domains. What you need for good leadership in politics is not different from what you need for leadership in medicine, in law, in whatever. So those leadership qualities, those are the things I'm bringing in. Those
like
things that
would like you to be specific.
First
what
of all,
exactly
integrity.
Are you bringing to the table?
First of all, integrity.
Yeah.
If you don't have integrity, you're not going to be applying the resources of the state for the benefit of the people. You're not going to offer transparent governance. You're not going to offer inclusive governance. You're not going to offer all those things that make for everybody in the state to feel that they belong to the government, that the government is theirs. You know, that's what democracy is at the end of the day. A government of the people, for the people, by the people. At present, there's a disconnect between people and government, and it shouldn't be the case.
All right, so how do you hope to bridge that gap? And earlier you talked about infrastructure deficits. in Delta. When you become the governor of Delta State, how do you hope to bridge that gap, the disconnect between the mass of the people and leadership? Second, the infrastructure deficit. What practical steps do you want to take to ensure that you cover up that area?
Infrastructure is basically about our schools, about our roads, about our health facilities. These are basic rights, actually. Basic human rights. People should be entitled to health, to education, to good access roads.
Yeah.
So the minute you start to implement all of these and the people see that actually they are reaping these dividends, they are sure that what you are doing is using the state resources for their own benefits. Right now, people think the politicians are just enjoying all the money and we're not seeing any of it. It's not trickling down to us. So those infrastructural deficits, we use the word infrastructure all the time.
Yeah.
Basically, we're talking about roads, where schools. You go to Delta
Hospitals.
State and see the state of the primary schools, people studying under conditions. You say, well, no, this is not right for a state that is so rich. The same thing with hospitals. In particular, primary health centers. Good healthcare is not about building fantastic, structures. And at the end of the day, people can go to the local center and have basic care. And all the emphasis is on curative medicine, nothing on preventative care and well-being. So these are some of the things I want to say. We need a different way of thinking. Secondly, we need a change of mindset. Okay, a mindset both for the people and for the leadership. And whoever is leading the state has to have that common touch, that people readily identify with you. You are not sitting on a high horse. Okay, and all those things are the things that engender confidence and get the people to say, yes, this is our man.
Do you think you have engendered that confidence, borrowing your words so far? I mean, I'm just imagining somebody at home listening to you or wherever they are and saying, yeah, we've heard the same, same old. Yeah, we want to provide infrastructure, we want to do this, we want to do that. If I were to ask you, what is that thing that I would look at in Dr. Edozie and say, yes, he has proved his mettle in this area in the past. And so I believe that if I give him the chance to become my governor in 2019, he will, bring this to bear.
Okay,
what can we say about your
my medical
antecedents?
students, medical students in my university chose me, honored me, acknowledged me as what they called exceptional role model. Now, for the students themselves to come out with such an accolade, that says something. That means this is somebody we can look up to, as somebody we can trust. This is the kind of person we want to be. This is the kind of leadership we aspire to. This is the kind of professional development that we want to see in our own careers. These are young people, students saying that. And that's why I say these attributes are transferable across domains. You are able to demonstrate that in your home, in your profession, and in your work. I mean, that's the complete picture.
All right, let me take you back to the issue of infrastructure. Have you taken a tour of Delta State? Not all areas of the state anyway, but selected areas to see for yourself the state of infrastructure, or this is just political talk where candidates always want to berate the others, and all that, because in recent times there have been talks about the governor doing well in infrastructure development and all of that, and they mentioned quite a number of them. Let me mention a few that I saw in terms of infrastructure development. Roads now, Owa Efron bridge construction, then the Umolo Kiagbodo Road, Olomu Road, and these are roads that the governor is said to have constructed. So my point is, have you gone round?
I have gone round and have got pictures, to confirm, what I'm saying about infrastructural deficits. You must be mindful of the fact that when it gets to electioneering time, people come up with things, this is under construction, we're cutting the tape here, we're doing all of that to convince the electorate. The reality on the ground is different. You want to ask yourself, why are these things coming up now? Why weren't they there last year or 2 years ago? You know, and we're talking about not just Okowa's leadership, we're talking about 19 years of PDP in Delta. We should be awash with infrastructures. We shouldn't be talking about now, you know, rural roads.
As an oil producer.
Exactly. We should be talking of bigger things. These are things, these things I mentioned, I think that should have been done 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Okay, so what we're saying is some of these things are themselves electioneering gimmicks. Okay, and you want to actually take a camera and go around the state and you'll find a different picture.
All right, when President Buhari came on board, even before that, we heard about change and what have you. When he came on, about a year or so, he said he did not realize that the enormity of the challenges on the ground. Now, how easy do you think it's going to be for you to achieve the visions that you have if you become governor or when, according to you,
yes,
you become governor in 2019 with the present structure of Nigeria? The R word has been on the front burner of national discourse. People have been saying, look, there's a need to restructure this country in a way that will give people like yourselves who want to be chief executive of the state to actually have powers, not only on paper, but indeed to actually be able to effect all of this. So many states for a long time were not able to pay salaries and all of that, having to depend on the center, you know, to give loans and what have you. How realistic really, beyond, it's one thing to have on paper these beautiful ideas, and when you get there, only to realize that it's not actually what you thought. How are you going to ensure that you translate whatever your visions are into reality with the present structure?
Yeah, first of all, let me say that in terms of states being unable to pay salaries, the Minister of Labor, Ngige, has himself said that anyone who doesn't pay salaries is committing a crime. This is a federal minister, so he must know what he's talking about. You know, the inference from that is that states should be able to pay salaries. And when you look at some of the ways that state funds are being expended, you wonder why we can't pay salaries. If you're able to spend, you know, hundreds of millions of naira hosting, you know, a huge party, a convention party, and things like that, and you can't pay salaries, then that's not quite right.
Don't you think the structure of the country makes that almost impossible?
No, we're talking about a state that has money and is spending that money holding a jamboree, and you have not paid salaries. That's not a structural issue. It's simply a question of commitment. How committed are you to the people? How committed are you to development? Or are you more committed to your own interest, or the interest of your own group, or the interest of your own party? Narrow interest. If you have the interest of the state at heart, your commitment will be manifest to the people. The way you spend the money will be different. So yes, there are structural issues, no doubt about that. But first of all, we must have a restructure of our own mindsets. The mindset of the leadership, the mindset of the followership, this needs to be restructured just as much as you need geopolitical restructuring.
All right, it was Plato in his theory of state who said leadership is not by happenstance, but is deliberate. That is to say, a leader must be a product of training. A leader must be a product of education. A leader must be one whose ideas align with that of the state. Have you got that in terms of training to lead? Because this is not just leading an institution, but a whole state.
Yes, I've got ample training for leadership. I have demonstrated great political leadership. But political leadership does not mean that you are in PDP or in Nigerian politics or even American politics. There's politics in everyday undertakings. So in my medical career, we have medical politics. So I have demonstrated leadership in my workplace. I have demonstrated leadership in terms of leading national and international medical organizations. For example, the presidency of the International Society of Psychosomatic Obstetrics and Gynecology. These are positions to which you have been elected. Your peers have seen something and you say, this is the person who wants to lead us. That is leadership. And I must also say, you've given one quotation. There's another quotation that says, some people are born great. Other people have greatness thrust upon them. And so there are different routes to greatness. You know, so I believe that innately I have those qualities, and I have demonstrated that from childhood right up to now, winning accolades along the way. but also in the course of my training, my medical training,
Yep.
my legal training.
Yes.
I mean, for each of those, you have ample training. To combine those two, you know, I must say, you know, with all humility, that I have had more training than anybody can wish to have prior to
Would
going
you
into this
describe
kind of thing.
yourself as a politician in the mode of Nigerian kind of politics? People will tell you politics is really a dirty game, and you leave it for those people who, you know, may have a huge question mark on their integrity. And you say you're bringing integrity to the table. Doctors are not necessarily rich people in Nigeria. Neither are lawyers. You're both a lawyer and a doctor. Money politics is a major challenge in our democracy so far. If your pocket is not deep enough, the chances of getting anywhere are very, very slim. So how do you plan to surmount that challenge? If it is a challenge, maybe it's not. How do you plan to overcome that to ensure that you achieve your goal?
There are two issues there.
Yeah.
You've raised the issue of politics being dirty, and then the issue of politics being a money business. Now, let's take the money business first. Nigerians have come to a stage where we have realized that it's not just about money. Okay? So you can take it from me.
Have we really come to realize
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we're
yeah,
still
yeah,
collecting
yeah.
1,000 naira,
No, you see,
bag
that's
of
the thing.
rice and
That's the thing.
things like
That's
that
the thing. That's
to
the-
influence our voting?
That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
People will collect all that money. If you have silly money to spend, and they will collect it from you. Why not? They will say, this is our money. Oh. Make we take our money, now we're supposed to enjoy them. They will take it from you, but that doesn't mean they'll vote for you. That doesn't mean they'll support you. And that doesn't mean that they will love you and like you because of your money. So people know that the time now is not for those who can afford it and pay money, but for those who can lead.
All right. All right. Let me ask this. There is a major challenge that is facing the country at the moment as a whole, which is corruption.
Yeah.
The corruption exists in every state, every sphere of our lives. As a future governor of Delta State, when you become the governor, how are you going to handle that?
The first thing is leadership by example. It starts from the top. If people see that you are clean, that you are transparent, everything is open, you're not hiding anything, and that you're a man of integrity, then it's easier to talk to other people about it. So I'm going to start with myself. I'm going to demonstrate that integrity, that transparency, and then build from there.
But again, there will be the argument that President Buhari is also all of those, as you have mentioned,
man of
but
integrity.
it's been difficult, you know, fighting corruption.
Well, you know, that is Buhari. It's for him to defend himself. I, Leroy Chuma Edosian, will do my own thing, my own way, and I can tell you that at the end of my term, people will be saying, yes, that's the kind of man we wanted.
All right, then I think that's a very beautiful place to leave it.
Yes.
Indeed, Leroy Chuma Edosian, governorship aspirant, of course, of APC extract. Well, thank you very much indeed for coming to talk to us.
Thank you so much.
And we wish you well.
Thank you. Wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.